Alright, so we've been asked about how exactly we make some of this stuff. So today I'm going to do a tutorial on how to make a single step aider. And things you're going to need here: cutting block, splicing tool. You can either buy one or we use mechanics wire. Seems to be better that way. I can get different lengths for whatever I am splicing. Razor blade. I'll show you. You can cut it with this. I prefer a hot knife. I'll explain why when we get to it. A needle. This is just a knitting needle that I have here. If you go to most of your stores, you can find these, but what you got to pay attention to when you flick them is if they're hollow. If they're solid, obviously you can't get your line down inside of it, and it's no good. So you want it to be hollow, and I'll show you what we do with that. So the first thing we're going to do is make an 18-inch single step aider. So what you're going to want is 45 inches approximately of Amsteel. So just take your measuring tape, 45 inches, mark it. I'm going to cut this at 46 with the razor blade and show you the difference in what the razor blade versus the hot knife does. So any block will work. I use wood because it seems to save my razor blades, but as you can see, it kind of goes through it quick. Pretty easy, and sharp one works. But if you look, the ends fray, and then you're constantly, when you're going to use your pass-through tool, you have to constantly be twisting it like this. Kind of gets frustrating. So I believe it's just an inch, but we'll double check just to make sure. I'm just going to take an inch off. Get pretty close. So with the hot knife, we'll push this out of the way. As you can see, this doesn't cut as good as a razor blade, but what it does is it melts the Amsteel, and it makes the ends so they don't fray like they did. So you just take your time, go slow with it, and it'll cut it real good. Don't forget to turn that off. I've done that a few times. But now you can see it's all stiff. The end's melted a little bit, and it's not going to fray when you keep pushing it into the tool. So now you can get different types of these. They have these needles online or whatever if you want to get a good one, but that seems to work the best for me. I like the small ones. And then they actually have some splicing tools that are pretty nice. Like I said, I like this one just because I can make different lengths depending on what I'm making. So I don't always like to use this big one. I like some short ones that fit right in your hand. Makes the end work real good. So you're gonna need these pieces. The last thing you're gonna need is 6 inches of hose. We use 1/4 inch fuel line. Reason being is it doesn't break down. It's made to be exterior. You get vacuum line and stuff like that, it will break down, but fuel line, as you can see, it's designed to hold up and last because you can't have leaking fuel leaks. So we use these. It holds up real good. So the first thing you're going to want to do, pass this through here. We don't need this anymore, so we can push these out of the way. Line up your ends. You want to get it centered. Center your step. Now you have your ends lined up down here. You got your step lined up the best you want, or excuse me, centered to these ends. So now you got basically an even step. It doesn't really matter until we get into doubles, which I'll do another video and explain that, but everything is lined up even. This is going to be an 18-inch step. So for the single steps, you got 18 inches. But what you got to remember is you want to leave yourself a 3-inch loop. So the bottom part of this, making a mess with it. Up here. So the bottom part, that's 18 there, but we want the bottom to start at 15. So we pinch these together at 15. You're going to center it again. And what you're going to do is, just as you would a daisy chain, take your tool, pass it through the center of your Amsteel. Put this through your tool. Pass this side through that side. Center it once again. Make sure your ends are even. Now you take the opposite side. We took this, went through that one. Now we're going to take this and go back through the other side, and that's going to lock it in place. So make sure we're straight. Grab this. I always pull it out just a little bit so I can get the tool through it. And a tip when you're doing this is always go with, so this is up top, so it's going to bend and go down through it. If I bent it and come down through here, now we're twisting the Amsteel. You don't really want to do that. Keep everything kind of in line. You bend it, it goes right in, and it goes through the other side. So back into there, and then pulls tight. So now we have the bottom of our 18-inch step, 15 inches, and the next piece is going to be 18 inches, which is going to be the top of our loop. Now, you want a little extra because we're going to hide the ends. So when we hide the ends, you got to have a little bit of extra to pull back through. So usually I use about 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch is what you want. You generally want your step loop to be roughly 3 inches. So that'll give us, I'd say about 1 inch, 1.25 inches. So same thing we did down here. Pass it right through the center. Get it tight. Same here. Pull it through a little bit. Always pull them to get them real secure. Make sure they're seated. So now, as you can see, the gist of it, get yourself an 18-inch single step aider. This is going to go down, probably sag a little bit, but try to get a rough 18 inches in the center where your boot's going to be. So that's a step. Next piece, got to get rid of these ends. This is where the mechanics wire comes in play. All you're going to do is come through here and splice it. You're going to go right through the center of it. So when you splice, because it pulls tight and it bunches up, this shrinks. So what you have to pay attention to is if I was to come into here and just splice with the same length and pull this back through, this tail's going to stick out because this shrunk. So what I usually do is I'll go 1.5 times. So here, I'll usually start like right about here. And all you do is bunch it up, push it in, and just slide it right through the center. Don't force it. If you force it, it's not going to work. It's going to bind on you. So the next thing you want to do is try to get the splice tool to come out as close to the knot as you can. Once it's out, just open it up a little bit, push this down inside of it, pinch it, And then the best thing you can do is push this together. It works like a Chinese finger lock. If you pull this tight, nothing's going to go through it. So bunch it up as you slowly pull the wire back through. And then just work it into place. Sometimes the end will slip out. You just got to redo it, but most of the time it'll stay in place. This is actually the hardest part. It doesn't always come through easy. You just keep working it. Now we got the end. So what I was saying is if we do this too short and you pull that tight, this end will stick out. You've seen a lot of guys that get it like that. Some guys like to do that, and then what they'll do is they'll burn it and it kind of cinches it in place. I like everything hidden, so once you pull it tight, everything's gone. Repeat the step on the other side. Again, I go about 1.5 times, 1 3/4. Push your splice tool right up inside here. Sometimes you'll go out the other side, just be careful. Close as you can get to the knot. Where it's a daisied, it's not really a knot. Pull this back. Again, what I was saying is it slips off. If you get too close to the end and you pull it through, this will fall out and it will not pull all the way through. So leave yourself a little bit so that it bites. Same thing, bunch it up. Start to work it through. Usually once you get it inside, it starts to go pretty easy. Out. Pull it all tight. Yeah, this one, you can see it's kind of sticking out just a little bit. That's usually what happens, but if you get not enough. But as you can see, all these pieces, one 18-inch Amsteel single step aider.